Donald Trump was having a meltdown at 12:30 a.m., making deranged post after deranged post as his regime appears to be covering up U.S. casualties, or at least very serious injuries, and his catastrophic escalation of the war in Iran. Here's what we are learning. A third medical evacuation mission from the Middle East took place in the last 5 days. A U.S. Air Force C-17A Globemaster conducted 2 patient pickups in Saudi Arabia before continuing to Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Now, the U.S. says there's no casualties and don't even pay attention to what's happening here. But earlier this week, there was another medevac mission that appeared to rendezvous with a patient as well. When you look at some of the kind of satellite and air traffic data. Now, this does not independently confirm that there are indeed combat casualties, but as this one account notes, it does raise a lot of serious questions. What is actually going on? And of course, Donald Trump wants to distract from that. He wants to distract from the fact that the Strategic Petroleum Reserves continue to be depleted. So what is Donald Trump, a WMD, weapon of mass distraction, do? Well, he's posting videos of himself at 12:30 a.m. bragging that he's number one on TikTok, as he calls TikTok, even though he's not number one. I don't even know what data he's talking about. He's not number one. He's posting weird videos of himself from like the early 90s. And it's like, Donald Trump is a trailblazer. He's posting these weird photos of like the Trump 250 Grand Prix, whatever the hell he's doing now. He's turning Washington, D.C. into like a racetrack. He's posting weird videos of Dan Scavino, one of his top advisors, bowling. I mean, he posted that at 12:37 a.m. This video of Dan Scavino bowling, which I'm not going to play. Let me just show you a short clip of like what the TikTok video is. Look, I'm number one on TikTok, everybody. Don't pay attention to the catastrophic war. Don't pay attention to the fact that I'm crashing the economy. Don't pay attention to the fact that the United States, by the way, just imposed 25% across the board tariffs on Brazil. Yeah, last night when you were sleeping, the Trump regime imposed 25% tariffs on Brazil because the Trump regime wants to install Flavio Bolsonaro, the insurrectionist former president Jair Bolsonaro's kid, to become the leader. So Trump and Bolsonaro's kid coordinated tariffs to inflict pain on Brazil in order to extort Brazil, and that was implemented last night as part of Marco Rubio's attempt to work with Donald Trump to dominate the Western Hemisphere in a new form of extortive imperialism that we're seeing right now, when Donald Trump calls that the Don Roe Doctrine, just straight up trying to destroy the Western Hemisphere. Let me just show you first this video that Donald Trump made of him saying, I'm number one on TikTok. Here, just play a short clip of it.
I'm number one on TikTok. Can you believe it? I'm number one. Look at those numbers.
And then this was a short clip of the video. Again, he's releasing these videos at midnight into 1 a.m. Here, play this clip.
Would make a less daring man shudder.
To think about the arc of where he's been in, it's like some sort of mythical story or something.
And these weird photos of himself with this Grand Prix race thing. Look, the American people see what's going on. In the latest Harvard-Harris poll right here, when the question was, this is to independents, is the economy today better or worse than it was when Biden was president? Overwhelmingly, 59% to 41% say the economy was better under former President Biden. Now, let's be honest in the sense that the first 2 years under former President Biden, it was rough. Inflation was high. You can't deny that. However, it was because he was the firefighter putting out the arson. He had to fix what Trump destroyed during Donald Trump's first term, when Trump didn't only mishandle COVID, Trump caused catastrophic economic calamity. Biden had to come in, be an adult, fix it. He did fix it. He left with 3% inflation. Now inflation's significantly higher. Inflation was going to be at 2%. Trump tariffed the world, is involved in this catastrophic war in Iran that he entered into with Netanyahu that he wants to escalate. And the American people are suffering. It's obvious we're way worse off than we were under former President Biden. And just while Donald Trump's making those deranged posts, while it appears there's a cover-up of casualties taking place, let me just play for you this video. This is some of the scenes from Tehran last night during an extensive U.S. bombing campaign. And there was also outside of Tehran, Iran had its air defenses where it was shooting at the U.S. planes. But first, let me show you these scenes from Tehran. Let's play it.
When I got a pay cut, Dave helped me get cash, up to $500 in 5 minutes or
Now we'll just show you A, which is the scenes just outside of Tehran. But I thought Donald Trump said that he obliterated all of Iran's anti-aircraft and air defense systems. It seems like they're shooting stuff out there. It seems like they certainly got a defense system. And again, as I said before, we know that there are med-evac planes in the area attached to the U.S. that are going from the Middle East to Germany. What they're doing, we don't know. But anyway, let me play this clip. Then Donald Trump made this weird post. Iran has allowed an American citizen who was wrongfully detained in December 2024 under the presidency of Sleepy Joe Biden to leave the country. She's now safely outside of Iran and in good condition. The United States appreciates this gesture of goodwill by the Iranian president. What are you even talking about? You appreciate the goodwill by what? By bombing Tehran, by bombing right next to a children's hospital last night where a children's cancer treatment center had to be evacuated while you were attacking a mineral water facility in Iran. Oh, and by the way, late last night, Donald Trump bragging how much he loves data centers, right? He goes, everybody loves data centers. Trump says it's liquid gold. Trump says one of the biggest driving forces in the future for jobs are data centers. They're big, strong, bold. They're money machines. They're cash cows. They're liquid gold, he says. They will lower taxes and they create record-setting jobs. Really, it's kind of the opposite. If you want to know why there's a jobs recession right now, it's because AI data centers are wiping out jobs, and also your tariffs against the world are destroying hospitality jobs. I can go on and on and on. Then Donald Trump goes, the data centers, must pay for their own water and power. And any leftover goes back to the state and local communities. They're tremendous wins, Donald Trump says, for states and communities. Donald Trump is saying the data centers are the greatest thing for the communities. Why don't you ask communities where there are data centers, how that's going for their electrical prices, how that's going for their health, how that's going for the community in general, how it's going for pollution and for the noise. You see communities saying data centers, data centers. Quite the contrary. And by the way, where the hell are the Democrats on this or anybody? This should be an issue that's so easy. It's handed to you on a silver platter, not because it's the politically expedient thing to do, because it's the right thing to do. Oh, by the way, that's why I wrote this book. WTF America right here. That's one of the exact reasons. You know, some of these things just aren't political issues. I mean, it's just WTF America. I wrote this with my brothers. I'll put you scan the QR code, pre-order it. The book comes out in October. I'll talk more about it in a moment as well. But it's like WTF, like You hear what Trump's saying? Just stand up. And by the way, that's why I like people like Senator Ossoff, who's out there fighting and standing up. And there are some Democratic fighters as well. And then the WTF, you've got Donald Trump saying yesterday, you know what I like about my big, beautiful bill? It helped my friends buy private jets. It helped my friends. Yeah. WTF, America. Here, play this clip right here.
We delivered 100% expensing, and that expensing, I think, we write it off in 1 year. I have friends that bought things that, frankly, they didn't need. I have a friend that never flew in a private plane in his life, and he ended up going out buying a very expensive private plane because of expensing 1 year.
Then his energy secretary, Chris Wright.
They executed the most powerful vampire 20 years ago, but they didn't know he left a son.
Goes on and he's like, the data centers are the greatest tool we have now to stop the rise in electricity prices. Data centers use electricity. They don't make electricity. Why is the energy secretary saying data centers make electricity? WTF, America. Right? WTF. Pre-order. Here, play this clip.
And of course, unfortunately, Governor Hochul has it exactly backwards. Data centers are the greatest tool we have right now to stop the rise of electricity prices and ultimately to bring them back down. It's the Democrat green energy policies that have driven energy prices up in New York State, actually shrunk their total electricity production. I mean, they banned fracking. They blocked a pipeline to bring natural gas, the biggest source of energy in New York. They closed the Indian Point nuclear reactor. They passed these crazy green energy mandates and an insane climate law. So the energy is expensive in New York and now sparse because of bad Democrat policies, nothing to do with data centers. In fact, that's the solution, not the problem.
Then you have Donald Trump posting yesterday, again, while the American people are suffering, while Americans are psychologically tortured from this regime. This is a real post. The Trump coin, everybody. Here, play this clip. Yeah. WTF, what the hell? Then this MAGA Republican senator is out there. MAGA Republican senator, she's out there and she's asked, in your mind, are Senator Ossoff and Warnock duly elected? Here, play this clip.
In your mind, are Senators Ossoff and Warnock duly chosen and sworn?
I don't know.
Yeah, WTF, America. And then Donald Trump says, Iran wants to settle so badly. Here, play this clip.
They want to settle so badly. They don't like what we're doing. And they do want to settle. We'll find out whether or not we settle with them or we just finish it off.
And he says, Iran, they want to settle soon. They want to do a deal. They want to settle. They want to be, they'll be defeated. Here, just play this other clip of him.
Booming, and we'll have Iran defeated soon. They'll be defeated very soon. And then I guess it'll be even better. But, even during this, it's been amazing. I mean,
I know, so utterly embarrassing. And then again, late last night, as I noted earlier, you had Marco Rubio announce 25% tariffs on most Brazilian imports. And if you're saying, Ben, I thought the Supreme Court declared the tariffs unlawful, you'd be right. So the Trump regime tried one scheme, tried another scheme, and now they did something that they call Section 301 investigations, where even though America has a trade surplus with Brazil, a surplus in the amount of nearly $450 million, the Trump regime declared the trade tactics by Brazil to be an unlawful cartel harming the United States. President Lula of Brazil, who's in an election against Jair Bolsonaro's son. Jair Bolsonaro is convicted of engaging in an insurrection, and he's been basically thrown in prison by the Brazilian Supreme Court for the rest of his life. Lula's running against Jair's kid, Flavio Bolsonaro. Lula leads by about, depending on the poll, there's 2 rounds. The first round's October, then there's a runoff, but anywhere from 10 to 20%. But it could potentially narrow. So Donald Trump, Rubio, the Trump regime wants the insurrection people. So they root for the Bolsonaro. They're trying to push the Bolsonaros. So even here, what Lula says right here, this will go down in history as one of the worst days in relations between the United States and Brazil. This happened last night. And then Lula says exactly what it is, that this is part of the plot with the active collaboration of the Bolsonaro family, driven by electoral objectives. One cannot love Brazil only when we win elections. Protecting our sovereignty is an obligation that stands above all parties and all trends. By the way, in WTF America, I focus a lot on the international issues as well, not just the gamesmanship of day-to-day politics, what's going on internationally. So hit subscribe, help us get to 7 million subscribers. Get a copy, pre-order, WTF America. There's the
Yeah, I want to be reimbursed because we're protecting a very rich portion of the world. We're spending money. And so what we've done is we are going to be reimbursed for protection. We're protecting by the countries that we're helping. For instance, you look at the 5 countries. You have Saudi Arabia, you have UAE, you have Qatar, or Qatar as I always say, you have Qatar, Bahrain, and by the way, you have others. You have Kuwait, and you have others, and they will do very well, but we think it's appropriate that we don't need them. You know, we have more oil than any other country in the world. When you add Venezuela, which has been amazing, which has tremendous amounts of oil that we control.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the Midas Touch Network. The damage that Donald Trump has done to America's global standing in just the last few months will take decades to recover from. Our alliances are being shattered. The rules-based order on which the world's economy and security depends has been upended. Everything is transactional now. Whether it's keeping the Strait of Hormuz open for a fee or taking Venezuelan oil, America's foreign policy is no longer values-based. I know, as a country, we've never fully lived up to the values we've espoused, but we used to at least try. We once had 2 political parties that made an attempt to adhere to values. Now, the Republican Party is governed by a single idea, fealty to Trump, and Trump himself is animated by a single principle, what's in it for me? You see that in every aspect of his presidency, and nowhere is that more dangerous to America and to the world than when it comes to national security. Alex Vindman has a lot to say about this. In part 1 of our conversation earlier this week, we discussed the epic corruption that has come to define the Trump regime. In part 2, we talk about the damage that Trump is doing to America's global reputation and the dangers posed when national security becomes politicized. Lieutenant Colonel Vindman risked everything when he blew the whistle in Trump's first term about the so-called perfect phone call in which Trump tried to extort President Zelensky of Ukraine. He is now running for the U.S. Senate in Florida. Here's part 2 of our conversation. I want to talk about America's place in the world, especially in the wake of Trump's humiliating performance in Ankara at the NATO summit, one embarrassment after another, referring to President Zelensky as President Putin, referring to the Islamic Republic of Japan launching missiles at American aircraft carriers. How long is it going to take us, if we can, to recover from the constant indignities that Trump has subjected us to? As a military vet, we also have to think about restoring the American military, restoring its place of prestige and respect amongst the American people, because it's in a tight spot as well. You have the president and the Secretary of Defense lying habitually about things that the military then has to make good on. How do we begin to recover from this?
I think that some of this is going to be a years-long project of reviving, rebuilding institutions that were harmed. Some of them are broken and all but erased, like U.S. aid. Others are bruised and battered, like the Department of Defense, which is is still the best military in the world, but it is steadily being degraded on its fundamental mission of defending the nation. So those are going to be years-long projects. We are, this Pete Hegseth in particular is one of the most nefarious and incompetent characters, sidelining some of our nation's best and brightest national defenders based on his far-right nationalist view of who should be serving, attacking women and men and minorities and LGBT community that's served honorably. Those things are, some of those things we could flip a switch after this administration, but it's going to take years to make sure that we develop foster the best and brightest to make sure that we're at the apex of national defense. Other things actually I think might be a little bit quicker. After we get through this midterm election and we regain control of the House and the Senate, that it will be a powerful signal to the rest of the world, to the democratic world, that the U.S. There is a path forward with the U.S. in the aftermath of a Trump administration, and I think that there will be plenty of opportunities for engagement and rebuilding and planning in preparation for after the 2028 elections, at which point our traditional allies will embrace and look for every opportunity to work with us. And probably, frankly, from a position of strength, because they are investing in their own security. They are being a lot more thoughtful and less reliant on the U.S. and less of a free rider on U.S. national security. And in that kind of scenario, I think there's lots of room to advance the cause of democracy and freedom around the world. So some of that work starts right after the midterms. Other work is going to have to wait until after the next presidential election. But I think we have a unique opportunity to change course, and we don't have to wait for a 4-year term from this administration. We could start that path in just
a full cart that's lighter on your wallet. That's a breath of fresh air. Download the Upside app and get a $15 bonus on your first purchase.
I like making my podcast. I don't like making short clips of my podcast. So
Hey, it's Ken. Quick break to update you on the fundraiser for the 34th Coastal Defense Brigade in Ukraine. Because of you, we beat our goal. We've already initiated the purchase of the motor upgrade for their rescue boat, and we are assessing other urgent needs to direct the remaining funds towards. I cannot thank you enough. This was the first unit-specific fundraiser we've done here, and given its overwhelming success.
Absolutely. I think the fact is, unless we send a signal about accountability, we're breeding impunity. If we gloss over and only look forward, then we've missed an opportunity to harden our democracy, build some resilience, and make sure that the signal is sent that this was an aberration. But we have to do it all, frankly. We have to be judicious and figure out, how to do that hard thing and ensure that there's accountability, as well as deliver an agenda that moves us forward. So that's going to be picking some serious fights and holding ground. And I have been a strong advocate for accountability to my own judgment. Yes. Damn the consequences, do the right thing. So that is 100% a commitment. But at the same time, I'm going to do what is necessary and find pockets of cooperation. I don't think I absolutely, it's the mission first, people always. I don't think that bipartisanship is an option. It's a necessity. And figuring out how to deliver some relief for the people of Florida is something that I need to do. For me, this is a special election. Unless I do both of those things, I have not earned my right for a re-election in 2028. So yes, it's going to be about accountability. Yes, it's going to be about guardrails, but it's also going to be figuring out how to find areas of cooperation to make life easier, to revive the American dream for the people of Florida.
Given everything that you have endured since your testimony, given the persecution of journalists and opponents of the regime, do you still believe in the title of your book, Here, Right Matters?
It would be overly simplistic to think that right matters all the time, everywhere. That's just not the history of this country. But the long arc of the history of this nation has bent towards justice. We have contributed more to humanity than any other country in centuries, if not millennia. And I think that's the kind of, and I think I understand the nature of the American people. They're kind-hearted and generous and good people, by and large, that also are humans and make just insane looking mistakes in hindsight. We forgot the lessons of this first administration and the chaos, and looked past it based on the promise of an America First agenda and the promise of prosperity, and without recognizing the true nature of things. So I think, to me, I think here right matters. This is America, and here right matters. But it is not the simplistic notion that everything is going to be, rainbows and unicorns at every turn. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be folks pitching in, putting themselves in the crosshairs, like I guess I've done again, running for the Senate seat, to make sure it matters, to make sure that I'm contributing to making right matter here in America.
Alex, thank you so much. Good luck. Where can people find out about your race, and how can they help?
Awesome. So go to alexvindman.com. Please sign up to volunteer. We'll take your contributions. We're very much a grassroots-driven campaign. Average contributions less than $40. There's a massive and ravenous following for your show and for Midas. So we would really welcome that kind of energy, and plug in with us to help deliver this big win. Because when we do that, that will be probably one of the most powerful signals that we are ready for a change in direction when we win the Senate seat in Florida.
Thanks, Alex. We'll have you back again soon. Good luck.
Want to get this damage machine for free? Use the code NEMESIS to claim the epic Akemptum.
ICE may have been out of the news for a while, but it remains out of control, and Trump just told them to double down. The war with Iran isn't going to conclude anytime soon, but politically it's becoming an afterthought. The only way to stop the war is to make it a political liability again. Ravi and I will talk about how to get there. Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, is becoming America's lawyer, yet most of us don't feel terribly well represented. We'll check in on the confirmation hearings. Trump is going to lay a bunch of BS non-evidence on us this week and make more ridiculous claims about the 2020 election. What should we all do to preempt him? And in the back half of the show, we'll have Congressman Seth Moulton from Massachusetts, candidate for U.S. Senate, join us. Welcome back to the podcast for the 54% of Americans who vote for progress and want to convince their friends and family members to join our majority.
All right. Well, there's a lot going on this week, but I think the most important place to start is with two incidents, one in Texas, one in Maine, where it seemed like unarmed people who were both, I think, legally credentialed to be in the United States were both killed by ICE agents. The one that's getting more attention at the moment is Joan Sebastian Guerrero, who's 25 years old. Obviously, we don't know a lot, but for those in YouTube, this is a video after Guerrero had been shot and killed. The ICE agents pull him out of the car and handcuff him after he had been killed. Now, from what we could tell, they said he was trying to run them over, but there's very little evidence that was true.
That's a parking spot. It's parked.
Yeah.
At the time that the video takes place.
It seems nobody's disputing that he's not the person they were looking for. His family says that he had legal status to work. He was credentialed. There's people are claiming that his 3-year-old was in the car while he was dragged out on the street. And crucially, despite promises that we would have body cameras, these ICE officials appear to not be wearing their body cameras.
It's the reason I teed this up in the intro the way I did is because what this and the Iran war have in common right now is they're both still ongoing, and yet it's been going on so long that the American attention span is starting to move on to other things. And as a result, the outrage meter is not as high as it probably should be on either one.
Yeah, and I think we talked about when the body camera money was allocated, I think it was here, I had a conversation somewhere, it had to be here, where it was like, this doesn't really mean much because you can't force them. I mean, in a normal world, you could force them to wear them, but this administration has shown such bad faith that we couldn't be sure of it. And here we are again. And in a normal society, we would trust the word of our law enforcement officials. And at the very least, we would trust their ability to investigate themselves, right? That would be a normal world. If that happened under Barack Obama or even George W. Bush or H.W. Bush or Clinton, so, in that world, you could trust that there will be a thorough investigation. The inspectors general, independent law enforcement, the state and the federal government will work together and get to the bottom of this. But given everything we saw in Minneapolis, where we still don't have a lot of information from the federal government, we have zero accountability. We have very little reason to think anything is going to happen.
In Conflict of Nations, you can build an army, battle other players, create alliances, and even drop a nuke. Just tap below and download now.
Donald Trump just ran away from the press after a disastrous event that he held in Pennsylvania. This as the United States is further escalating its attacks on Iran. We're seeing massive strikes by the United States military. As I am recording this video, we're also seeing a very strong response from Iran. New explosions are heard in Bahrain. New explosions are heard in Kuwait. New explosions are heard in Erbil, Iraq. Iran is responding. Let me show you as Donald Trump runs away from the press after he's asked a very simple question. Are you giving Iran any deadlines? And then Donald Trump goes, I don't like giving deadlines. They better behave. Donald Trump, who constantly sets arbitrary deadlines, says, I don't like giving deadlines, and then he just runs away from the press. Watch for yourself. Here, play this clip.
Nice to be with you. Are you going out to the event? Is everything fine?
Are you giving Iran a deadline before you start bombing?
I don't like giving deadlines, but they pretty much know. They know the story.
So are you meeting?
They better behave.
Mr. President, on vehicle stuff?
President not spending too much time outside because it is 97 degrees in our area right now. But the president.
Now, we're learning that as part of these U.S. strikes, it does appear that the United States missiles struck near a hospital in Avaz area in Iran where there are cancer patients, especially children who are receiving chemotherapy. The hospital had to be partially evacuated there as the Trump regime strikes took place very close to that hospital. Trump regime also striking on Karg Island and Keshem and nearby. You're seeing a lot of wildlife, like over here. You're seeing some of the deer of Karg Island taking refuge on the streets after some of the explosions right over there. As I noted, Donald Trump held this bizarre press conference before, just kind of running away from the press. At this presser, Donald Trump says that Iran wants to settle so badly, they really want to make a deal. Here, play this clip.
They want to settle so badly. They don't like what we're doing. And they do want to settle. We'll find out whether or not we settle with them or we just finish it off.
And then after saying they want to settle so badly, he also says, we'll have Iran defeated soon. They'll be defeated very soon, he says. Here, let's play this clip.
Booming, and we'll have Iran defeated soon. They'll be defeated very soon. And then I guess it'll be even better. But, even during this, it's been amazing. I mean,
now the Wall Street Journal is also reporting how Donald Trump and his despicable regime are leaning towards expanding U.S. military operations in Iran, including ground troops, including bombing what they believe to be covert nuclear sites, including bombing civilian infrastructure. Now, just if you go back through this past week, you'll see the reporting that I did where I talked about ground invasion because I saw where the U.S. was bombing, so it was obvious to me that they were prepping for a ground invasion, or special forces at least. And then Donald Trump has been talking about bombing Pickaxe Mountain. It's an area in Iran where there is believed to be a nuclear program perhaps taking place there, but it's very deep underground. Even bunker busters can't get to it. That would certainly be a massive escalation. And the IRGC has said, we will not back down. And if the Trump regime continues to escalate, we'll continue to escalate. And they've said there are many other stages that we have prepared in the offensive that we're planning, which to me is, of course, a reference to shutting down the Bab el-Mandab Strait in the Red Sea. Going back to that presser, Donald Trump says that the economy during this war has been absolutely amazing, he says. It's great and everybody's thriving and it's amazing and the economy in the U.S. couldn't be better right now. Here, play this clip.
It's been amazing. I mean, to think, so I call it a military operation, but I call it whatever you want. It's incredible. It's like it hasn't made a dent. A lot of people thought oil would go up to $350 a barrel, and today it's at $79. A couple of days ago, it was at 68. It went up a little bit because I had to take tough action because they did not obey what they're supposed to obey. I mean, they just didn't do it. So we took a little action, but it'll all, when that settles down, I think you're going to have $55 oil, which is all great for what you're doing, maybe less than that.
Then he says, it's like COVID. Remember how good of a job I did in COVID, he says? I don't get enough credit for the great work I did in COVID, he said. Here, play this clip.
Hit with COVID, but even including COVID, we did a great job in COVID. We never got credit for it, but every country was ripped apart by that disaster. We know where it came from. It came from Wuhan, and I said that, but we were all ripped apart, and China got hit very, very hard. It was delayed. They got hit very hard at the end.
By the way, the parallels there are also very clear, right? Donald Trump saying, like a miracle, COVID's going to go away. There's only going to be 2 cases. It's going to go away. Thankfully, at least for COVID, Donald Trump lost the election. We had someone who responsibly dealt with it in former President Biden. But Biden got a lot of crap for difficult economy, shipping issue, all the economy, because you got to fix it. That's what happens when you actually have to fix it and you don't commit fraud. And then he fixed it, and then Donald Trump is breaking it again. Now, a message just came out from Pete Hegseth moments ago while the U.S. is escalating. This is real. This isn't a parody. This isn't AI. This actually comes from the official Defense Department account. They call themselves the Department of War. And Pete Hegseth says, we will now be known as the High T Department of War, as in high testosterone, and that they will be doing medical analysis on the troops to ensure that they have the appropriate level of T, of testosterone. Here, play this clip.
At the Department of War, we have the most elite warriors on the face of the earth. Every single day, you are pushed to your absolute physical and mental limits to master the profession of arms. We demand your all, and you give it. But while we invest heavily in our weapon systems, platforms, and gear, our most decisive tactical advantage will always be the individual warfighter. We have a sacred duty to maintain that advantage, which is why we must constantly look for new ways to optimize your performance, your resilience, and your long-term health. And to meet that commitment today, I'm authorizing a new screening program for testosterone deficiency for our service members, ensuring you have the right testosterone levels to operate at your absolute best.
If anyone in this room found out what I was, I wouldn't make it out alive. Quintal.
Let me interrupt for a moment with a news story that you need to hear. So just recently, the Trump administration bragged about the PJM power grid. It's the largest in the country, moving away from renewables. Energy Secretary Chris Wright posted a chart showing coal, gas, and other non-renewable sources making up over 91% of generation and renewables under 6%. He was bragging about this. His advice in a time of strain during the summer heat was to keep your air conditioners black.
Yo. Dude, it's fucking hot. Hot, boss. All right. All right. How we living? What are we doing? What do we got? What do we got on this fine Wednesday evening? Dude, T-minus 1 day, boss. Tomorrow we have the big Trump fucking presser. Dude, should I go live for the Trump presser, you think? Oh yeah, we'll look at that, Natalie. We'll have to check that out. Dude, should I go live for the Trump presser? I think maybe we will. Maybe we will. For his bullshit. The Trump bullshit tomorrow. Oh my God. Yeah, no, I'm going to do it. Because it's 9 p.m. Eastern. So it's 6 p.m. Pacific. And I have a massage until 5. So I'm going to get on. I'm going to get on tomorrow. Because tonight's videos are going to be easy to make because we have a real easy schedule. Like I'm not going to have a fucking too much chaos on there. Right. So I think I'll go live during it and just to see, to take it in live reaction. I think that'll be a good thing to go live on. Right. I am so curious what kind of bullshit they're going to pull. I mean, today, dude, that Ossoff clip, we are going to look at the John Ossoff clip. That thing was mental, right? Jay Clayton, the guy that they're trying to put in the head of DNI. Like, dude, what is America doing, guys, at this point? And can I tell you something? Like, look at this, guys. Something happened today. We're gonna ease in here, but something happened today with YouTube that bothered me. And it was this. Okay, you see this? So the YouTube screen has been unchanged for as long as I've been on YouTube, which is 7 years. Okay? And it's always said details, monetization, ad suitability, video elements, and then checks. Okay? And it checks for there they go. Just look at the map where those drone swarms are headed. Ukrainian President Zelensky has unleashed yet another drone swarm, this time targeting the Black Sea. Over 20 Russian vessels destroyed in the Black Sea, and this follows dozens and dozens of Russian vessels destroyed in the Sea of Azov, which was previously targeted. And by the way, Ukraine continues to hit ships in the Sea of Azov, but Russia's basically shut down tankers going there because of the Ukrainian drones. We'll get to that in just a moment. Look at this massive fireball rising over the Russian oil depot near Stavropol after overnight strike right here by Zelensky. Take a look at this oil depot. It's actually in the Milkovsk area near Stavropol. Take a look. I'm just going to show you this video right here. Let me just show you what some of these
Ukrainian drones look like. Like, this is the Ukrainian drone that looks like a copy of the Iranian Shahid drone that Russia has been using against Ukraine. Now, this kind of Shahid style Ukrainian drone, if you will, is on its way to attack Russia's Engels bomber airbase earlier in the morning. Let's play this clip. Here's another video of that. Let's play it. More from Engels. Here's a photo. Shout out Max26. The great work that Max does. In Engels, Saratov region, you can see the Engels Air Base under attack right there. I want to go back to where I started, though. The Ukrainian drone swarms in the Black Sea after successfully targeting all those Russian tankers in the Sea of Azov. Just so, let's pull up a map just so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm a visual learner right here. You see where the Sea of Azov is right there between Ukraine and Russia. You see Crimea, which was taken over by Russia and annexed more than 10 years ago, 12 years ago to be precise. You see the Black Sea right over there. Now, Ukraine was pretty much directing its drone swarms in the Sea of Azov. Now, the Black Sea. Let's take a look at some of this footage because these drone swarms are striking hard. And as I noted, in the Black Sea, 20 ships, we're talking about 17 Russian oil tankers, 2 gas carriers, and 1 tug. So in terms of all of the vessels that have been destroyed by Ukraine in July alone, we're talking about 136 Russian vessels. As I play this B-roll for you right here, this is in the Black Sea. 116 in the Sea of Azov from, pretty much early to mid-July. And then more in the Black Sea right there, July 15th, July 16th, today, yesterday. Let's take a look right here in the Sea of Azov. Pull up this footage right here. Ukrainian attack drones hit another 15 vessels in the Sea of Azov over there. I'll share with you this video showing one of the Russian vessels attacked by the Ukrainian strike drones burning in the Sea of Azov right there. Russian ship in the Sea of Azov smokes heavily after encountering with the Ukrainian strike drone. Shout out Special Care Sean Cat. Foreign sailors filming several Russian vessels burning in the Sea of Azov after a series of Ukrainian drone strikes. Let me show you what it looks like when those Ukrainian drones are buzzing. I showed you one that almost looks like it's spoofing the Iranian Shahid that Russia uses, but this right here is the FP1 drone. Remember, Ukraine uses FP1 long range, FP2, those FP5s are more the ballistic, frequently called flamingos. Here's the FP1 drone striking the Russian port of Azov, the Rostov Oblast. Let's take a look.
What if every moment was an opportunity to reward your conviction?
Summer is the season where I actually want to feel good, not just look good. And one simple thing that I've kept in my morning routine all summer is Menacora honey. If you've never tried real Manuka honey, it's honestly in a category all its own. Menacora is rich.
Epstein Transparency Act Part 2 is launched. Part 2 is launched. Here's what happened. Ro Khanna, Thomas Massie, and others got together and put together a bill saying, giving the powers, listen to what I'm saying, because if you've been watching my channel, you get what I'm saying about the context here. The powers to support the attorney generals in the states to go after people as well as support the survivors in the federal government. So the power to go after people in the federal government to require the the JOD to support what the AGs in states are doing. So in other words, to require them, and they got the power to do this, the legislative, to get them to do that. Now the question is, can they get that done? Where they get the DOJ to comply, where they get the, and if they don't, they're in even bigger trouble. They're already in trouble now. Believe me, Tom Blanche coming in, Tom Blanche getting confirmed is going to put Trump further in jail and most certainly certify him going to jail and losing his license. But let's go a little deeper in that. What we're seeing right now is the legislative branch put together a piece of legislation which is going to empower states to do something when they're being impeded in Epstein investigations. And the only Epstein investigation right now is happening in New Mexico. And the Attorney General has said, of New Mexico has said that the DOJ is openly blocking them. And the DOJ had the fucking balls to come in and say, yeah, we doing that. We blocking it. Fuck you. Basically, that's what they say, fuck you. And these motherfuckers are going to jail at the DOJ. Oh, man. Going to jail. Oh, my God. Okay, so this is very good news. Now the question becomes, can they pass it? Possible. Depending on who feels like what. That's the best way to say it. Who feels like what? That's the biggest thing. Could they pass it? The real thing I want to know as they going through this is punk ass Jeffries, look at my previous video where I call him punk ass, turned on us. Punk ass Jeffries, is punk ass Jeffries going to back this? Let's see how this plays out. I think he most likely will. The question is, how many of the Republican legislature is going to come in and back that play too? But this is like enormous. Let's say, for instance, it doesn't get passed. If it doesn't get passed, listen, we ain't nothing but we're all going to show up in the November elections, right? Just like everybody say November 3rd in the comments. Because there's some of you who've really been cool about posting, vote, yes, say vote November 3rd. Put it in the comments. Everybody put it in the comments watching this. If it doesn't pass on January 3rd, the 120th Congress, which looks like we got a blue wave coming.
More insight, more speed. Get powerful futures tools with Robinhood.
This settlement check completely changed my life. And it came from a car accident I almost forgot about.
It's going to be coming for that ass. The only thing they got to do first, even before that, and I think all of you agree, is defund, repeal, somehow stop the big, beautiful bill from taking $1 trillion out. The other thing that has to be done right away is bringing back the ACA benefits, because there are 4 million Americans who don't have them, and it's estimated that tens of thousands, literally about 50,000 people will die this year without them. That 4 million who couldn't afford the ACA because a bunch of rich-ass bitch-ass senators, Republicans, decided to fight back and didn't want to extend it. That's what cruelty is. That's why I say there are no good Republicans in government. Sorry, I just don't go for that shit, because you're letting that's just fucking cruel. And it's your own fellow Americans, including Republicans, who are dying from that. So when I hear, oh, well, because there was a question that came up to me about Lindsey Graham before they knew it was going to be his sister. They said, well, maybe they'll replace them with something better. I said, it's a red state. There's no way in the world there'll be something better. Well, you're being negative. And I'm like, negative? Really? Negative? So I'm being negative about a group of people that have taken our Medicaid, Medicare, Affordable Care Act, our veterans benefits, and our Social Security. I'm being negative about a group of people who have been killing people via detainees, via people they stop on the streets, via deportees who go back to nations they were trying to flee and get killed, via the service members who are losing their lives in the Middle East because of this stupid war that was started. He was the first anything. Trump was the first anything to bomb Iran. And if there was anybody who had a right to bomb Iran, it was Ronald Reagan. And even Ronald Reagan didn't do that shit. Oh, Ronald Reagan would have, Ronald Reagan would have leveled their ass. But no, even he didn't take that bait by Israel. This has been a long game for 40 years. Israel been trying to get a president to do that. That's why they wanted Trump, just in case, something might happen on that Qatar plane. And he went back on Air Force One because they tried. They were upset. They were really upset. And I'm trying to tell you right now, where we're at with this Epstein Transparency Act, it's gonna get a big push if it doesn't get passed. If they confirm Todd Blanche, it's over. It's over. Because he's gonna let everything happen. And if everything happens, Trump screwed. And so is Todd Blanche. Trump has an amazing power. He does. He convinces lawyers to go to jail. No, really, that is an amazing power, that you could have that much influence over a motherfucker that right in front of your own face, you forsake your law firm, your family. I mean, look what Giuliani did. You just forsaked everything for the sake of Trumpism. It really, really is a cult. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Hey, so we're going to make it through this by all means. I do want to do a side video for a moment and just tell you that, quite frankly, I'm going to start breaking things down in certain formats. And I don't know if I want to say some of these things public on social media. So I'm trying to figure out how to put it together. I used to have these things called Clarity Reports. That's in the Clarity group. But I think I'm going to have some premium reports that I'm going to talk about in detail about what I think is happening with our nation. If you're interested in that sort of thing, I would probably end up charging like $7 so I could, pay for the Clarity group and kind of get things paid as a creator. If you'd be interested in that, could you put in the comments Clarity? Yeah, man, $7, cool, Clarity. If you are. If you're not, don't comment. It's all right. I'll talk to everybody later. You know what I'm going to say. You know what I'm going to say if you're here. If you're new here, hopefully I've earned your subscription. And if you're new here, you definitely want to binge watch my last 5 to 10 pieces of comments, or my pieces of content, because I talk about context. I don't talk about news. You know what I'm saying? All right.
We asked a bunch of real Opus Clip customers to send us videos about what they think of Opus Clip, and the number one thing we found out, people love the AI editor.
I'm hopping into Opus and I'm not editing anything.
I've been utilizing the B-roll.
It does the
All right, so ICE has been on a murder spree, as you all know. There was one in Texas the other day. They shot somebody who was on his way to work. Horrifying stuff. Then there was one in Maine. That guy's name is Joan Sebastian Guerrero. So he was here legally. He was authorized to work. He had a social security number. He was not a target of an ICE investigation. And according to DHS, he did not try to kill ICE agents. They said, we wanted to protect the public, is what they said. Flat out insane that this guy was killed. By the way, there's also some speculation, some rumors, I don't know if it's true, but that this guy was actually right-wing, and this guy was MAGA, and MAGA guy getting killed by MAGA policies. It's actually a thing. It happens quite a bit, actually. Like people who vote for Trump, then they lose their Medicaid, then they die because they can't get their health care. What'd you learn, right? Like, horrible, horrible stuff. None of these people should be dead. So Trump came out and said the following. We learned that, hey, ICE says they're going to stop these traffic stops because it was questionable whether or not they were legal in the first place, right? But then ICE comes out and says, okay, we're going to stop this for now because they've killed multiple people this way. It's a thing, right? Trump catches word of this, and he says, the men and women of ICE are doing a great job. When that has to be done, crime is way down in America, in many cases with numbers that haven't been seen in decades. The open border policy of Sleepy Joe Biden allowed 25 million people to pour into our country unchecked and unvetted. Many were criminals, and we have to get them out. In order to do this, we must be strong, tough, and smart, and we cannot give up one of ICE's most important and effective crime-fighting tools, the traffic stop. So, out of desperation, they shut it down, trying to save the midterms, trying to stop people from being killed, right? And then Trump goes out there and goes, wrong, let's kill more people. Let's do more of that. So that lasted literally less than a day. It lasted less than a day, and then Trump came out and reversed the decision. Okay, well, that's something. Let's continue. ICE has been on quite a spree. Florida man killed during ICE traffic stop. This was during the period where they said it was frozen, too, by the way. Same day, agents were ordered to pause vehicle stops. 28-year-old man was hit by a semi-truck. He jumped out of his car and fled on foot. After agents followed him to a gas station, ICE claims it was an encounter, not a true traffic stop. That is the third death that occurred during a vehicle pursuit in traffic in just the past week. ICE has supposedly ordered a temporary nationwide pause on most vehicle stops. The identity of the man and his citizenship status have not been released. Incident occurred on State Road 16 in St. Augustine, Florida. Let's take a look. Here we go.
The 28-year-old man crossed the road and was hit. He died on the scene. We've discovered this is the third death involving ICE in a week across the country.
Our Christina Burgess is following this story. She joins us now live. So, Christina, what have you learned?
Well, Heather and Anthony, the scene is now cleared from this morning, but in the last couple of hours, we did learn from Florida Highway Patrol that 28-year-old man was fleeing across this busy state road that's to my left when he was hit by that semi-truck. The Florida Highway Patrol also telling us that ICE and Homeland Security
Yeah, Pitt, you are absolutely right on that, Pitt.
Security investigation agents responded to this Wawa on State Road 16 right before 7 this morning. Troopers say that 4 people inside a vehicle ran from the area after encountering the agents. Investigators say that one of those individuals, a 28-year-old man, ran across State Road 16 and into the path of an oncoming semi-truck. The driver of that truck did stop immediately and try to render aid, but the man died at the scene. The Florida Highway Patrol is investigating the fatal crash, and while any questions about the federal encounter are being referred to ICE and Homeland Security at this time. And First Coast News, we did reach out to ICE earlier this afternoon, and they did tell us that they are expecting to release a statement from the Department of Homeland Security shortly, and we received that statement.
How about this one? ICE set to deport a single mom, leave her 1-year-old baby behind, abandoned at the hospital. Agents refused to release the infant into...
Hold on, Pitt. Let me do something real quick. All right, Pitt, we back.
Custody of her own mother, even though doctors cleared the girl to leave the hospital yesterday. Now her baby, a U.S. citizen, is detained and separated from her mom. Daughter has been hospitalized in intensive care for almost her entire life. She has a serious genetic...
Hold up, y'all. Pitbull says the longer ICE is allowed to operate with impunity, the more comfortable they get with the power. The harder it is to stop them. Absolutely, y'all. Double tap that screen, smash that like button. Pitt, salute.
Condition requiring specialized care, prior heart surgeries, and a feeding tube. Her mother, Maria, has lived in the New York metropolitan area for the past 8 years. They want to deport a mother who's the only caregiver for this precious baby. Here we go. Watch
Leaving would mean leaving behind the most important battle of her life, that of her youngest daughter. At just 1 year old, the little girl has spent almost her entire life in a hospital with a genetic condition. She has survived heart and tracheal surgeries and depends on a feeding tube to stay alive.
Because of her, I came to this country because I don't want to leave, because I know that the care they receive is better here than in one's own country, because Guatemala is not going to be a country that has everything that is here.
The baby is supposed to be discharged on July 7, but the mother claims that a social worker at the hospital told her that they will not be able to release her due to her immigration status. What did the judge say at your meeting?
He told me at the appointment when I went to the courthouse that he ordered my deportation, because I went to my last courthouse and he ordered my deportation right away, and told me that if I appealed, I would tell you the same thing in 3 months. And I think that if something happens to me, I don't know who they will stay with, except my daughter. Or a healthy daughter, I wouldn't worry, because I know that anyone can adopt them, or anyone can take care of babies.
After 8 years in this country, this Guatemalan mother says that there is only one priority in her life, not being separated from her daughter.
Do you have hope that something will change? Yes, I have hope. I don't lose faith. It's the only thing that keeps me going. And I think that's what keeps me going, that I can go out and nothing happens to me. Because I always ask God to take care of me. Because my daughter depends on me. My daughter depends on me. And if something happens to me, my daughter will be left alone.
So understand that all this stuff starts happening as soon as they ramped up deportations again. 2,000 deportations a week, 2,000 arrests per week, I should say. Here's another one. Ice punched man repeatedly in his groin and back after already pinned to the ground. Bro, why are they taking his pants off? A witness asked. This is the sort of stuff that's happening on a daily basis now. It's a roving gang of thugs. That's what it is.
Oh my god, they're pushing it. They're punching it. Oh my god. Wow. Oh, Nina. Oh. Oh my gosh. Why do you kill them like that? What are you about to do? Oh my god, why are they hitting them? Hey, wow. Bro, he's taking his pants off. This has been a day for me already.
Jesus Christ, man. ICE brutally detained U.S. citizen, refused to even look at his ID. 5 agents slam man against brick wall, used chokehold to tackle him to the ground. All right, here we go. Again, these videos are coming out every day again now.
Yeah, it looks like we got some shit to talk about. That's fucked up. But the real issue is this dude is pro MAGA. He's still getting his ass whipped. See what I'm saying? This dude pro MAGA, he's still getting the business. So MAGA, what are you getting again? Killed, detained, restricted on your funding. It ain't working out good for you. Right, pick modern day Gestapo. Just scooping people off this fucking street. What kind of legal shit is this? Bullshit. They go to plates. The funny thing is, since when black people been able to sit back and watch other people get fucked over like we do all the time? This shit is normal for us. But since when, if America's so good and getting so great again, when have black people had a window seat to white people getting killed, fucked up, MAGA, getting their asses dragged, ICE agents catching goddamn charges, lewd acts with children? When have we been able to get a bird's eye view to this shit? Smash the like button. Cards. Go another one right there. Now, these motherfuckers wilding out here, bro. Scooping people up off the streets without even letting them identify themselves and shit. Yeah. Fucking 4 fucking cars. My man in whack work back here all day, every day, U.S. citizen. And they gonna fucking scoop him up without even letting him identify himself. It is bullshit, bro. Look at this shit. Watch out for your people out here. Yo, Poppy, that's fucked up what they did, bro. They just scooped them up and they do nothing.
Jesus Christ, man. ICE detained stepfather of Democratic candidate right after she won upset victory in primary. She says he was targeted by the angry incumbent.
But do y'all see how black people always come and be the ally for every motherfucking body else? Always. But when it's us, we don't get that same treatment. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers is doing every another You know, they're ignoring that shit. We see what's going on.
Quote, I'm running for office. My dad was detained by ICE. It's no coincidence, she said. Here we go. She's running for office. Her dad was detained by ICE. It's not a coincidence, she says. Weeks ago, 21-year-old Elizabeth Tapia pulled off a major political upset in her town of Dover, booting out a number of incumbents. Then she got a phone call. Her stepfather, who is undocumented, had been detained. She doesn't think the timing is a coincidence. Elizabeth's father's undocumented status is not a well-kept secret in Dover. After all, it's a small town where everybody knows everybody. He only spent a few days in Delaney Hall before he was released to wait for his immigration court date later this month. Do we know what happened for sure? No, but it's possible, and the fact that this is even a consideration here, that it's in the realm of possibility, I think says it all. Guy works construction, by the way. He works construction. So do you understand yet? Do you understand what we're dealing with here? This is fascism. This is what fascism looks like. We're talking about a rogue agency, which is a criminal cartel that completely ignores court orders. They've assaulted innocent people repeatedly. Remember when they sent 288 people to a concentration camp in El Salvador, 90% of them with no criminal record whatsoever? Remember that? Remember when they arrested a U.S. Marshal? Remember when they arrested an American citizen because that American citizen was speaking Mayan and held him for a week? Remember when they arrested a woman immediately after she gave birth and they deported a 4-year-old American citizen with cancer? Remember how they've raided 7-Elevens and Home Depots and meatpacking facilities and farms? I mean, again, we've never seen anything like this before, where they tear gas cops and they tear gas journalists and they run over people with cars and they tear gas a baby and they assaulted an 84-year-old married couple. I mean, there's over 4,000 people missing because of ICE and nobody even talks about it. Nobody talks about the mass kidnappers who are abducting people and human trafficking, and they've ripped up the Constitution, no due process, no habeas corpus. Nobody even talks about it. And now they're on a fucking murder spree again. Dismantle them. Abolish ICE is the moderate position. The real position is abolish and fucking criminally charge all these disgusting freaks. All right, guys. That's the show, man. I love y'all very much. You guys know the drill. Everybody subscribe to the channel. Click that bell icon. That helps out big time and costs you nothing at all. You could also support the show on Patreon. Link below. Remember, there's real independent media. Sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. Joy Reid coming on this week. And also, go sub to Corin's World. It's his birthday. Hook him up with a sub. Let's make him gain a few thousand subs. It'd be awesome. All right, I love you guys, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
There are growing signs that President Trump's MAGA base is fracturing, with high-profile defections by former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene and influencer Ashley St. Clair, and recent polling that indicates that the overall number of people who identify as Republican is shrinking. But for the diehard, leaving MAGA isn't easy. When you were a part of the MAGA movement, how...
Hey, we're going to see a lot of this, y'all. We're going to see a lot of people that's moving away from MAGA. You're going to see a lot of them. Trust me. Pitt, you know what time it is. They leaving like real fast.
deep were you?
I was as deep as anyone could have been. I was an aspiring MAGA pundit. I had bylines in places like Fox and The Federalist. I spoke at Trump groups. I was a donor on the campaign. I was unapologetically a MAGA and Trump supporter.
Rich Logis is the founder and CEO of Leaving MAGA, a nonprofit for those disillusioned by the movement. The group, which Logis says is funded entirely by small donors, provides support groups, de-radicalization resources, and a platform for members to share their experiences.
After I left in 2022, I realized that because MAGA is a community itself, to leave, I thought that I should build a community for people who also decide to leave. When I left MAGA, I had nowhere to go.
To get a better understanding of what makes people leave MAGA, we heard from an array of the group's members.
I grew up really poor, so a lot of my friends' parents would be responsible for helping me get to prom or making sure I had, new shoes for school, and they were all MAGA. And it was very much this constant conversation of, if you want to have nice things, be a Republican. Look at what we have, look what we're doing for you. They say Republicans are cruel and heartless, but look, I'm taking care of you. If I was cruel and heartless, would I do that?
I really wanted acceptance with my father, and my father was very much into Fox News, so that was something that we would connect on.
I became heavily indoctrinated into trad wife culture. Household voting was something myself and my fellow trad wives in the church, we were all absolutely fine with household voting. And that
Right, so just to clarify, for people who don't know, household voting means the woman does not vote.
So the SAVE Act, in essence, is to take that right away from women.
In 2015 and 16, I felt that the two parties were the same, that democracy had failed most Americans, and that elected officials cared mostly about the wealthy and the powerful. And even though Trump ran as a Republican, I was very enticed by his outsider status.
From the timelines you've given me, you guys were all sort of on the MAGA train to some extent.
Hey, Pitt, I'm thinking the same shit, trad-wise. You see that polygamous mentality? What else could you say? Basically, is what I always said. MAGA don't like women. The only women that...
I believe that the riots are actually, those were patriots.
They stormed the Capitol, and I'm like, well, yeah, I guess this is what you got to do if you have a corrupt, election process happening.
Until I actually switched off Fox News and started getting my news from other places, my information, that's when it finally hit.
Diversifying their news turned out to be a common factor in leaving MAGA.
Met my now husband in 2021. He is a black man, and he saw a Trump flag on my profile, and he was like, hey, could you read White Fragility? I'd really love it if you would. And I did, and it was very interesting because I was terrified of that book up until that point. And I read it, and it wasn't even as scary as I thought it was going to be, and they made me watch a documentary.
All right, so this ties into what I always said, Pitt. I have always said that they don't like fucking women. They hate women. They hate children. And the only women and children that they're okay with is women and children that are willing to get under the patriot or patriarchy caste system. And that patriarchy caste system is dealing with, hey, if you're not willing to say, we can go all the way back to Christianity. We can go all the way back to Christianity with this. They removed the Great Mother and replaced her ass with a holy fucking ghost. I know y'all don't want to hear that, some of you devout Christians. But I'm going to tell you what. The original pantheon consisted of man, woman, and child. Horus, Heru, Isis. You see what I'm saying? Man, woman, and child. Woman, man, and child. So there's no question that the woman comes first. Any man out here that's questioning whether or not he's superior to his mother is a fucking asshole. Can we agree on that? Double tap that screen, smash that like button if you agree with that. Any man out here that think he is fucking superior to his mother is a fucking fool. Who the fuck taught you everything? Show me in nature where the offspring is learning outside of killing and protecting the fucking territory. The men don't, or the male species really doesn't show nothing about survival other than fighting, protecting, and hunting, maybe. And if I'm not mistaken, Shit, even at Pride of Lions, the women, the fucking lioness, it's everything. The males ain't shit but security guard. And in life, that's pretty much the way it goes, man. But I'm seeing right here this trad wise. I don't even know what the fuck that is, but it sounds like some degrading shit. Am I right, Pitt? These motherfuckers don't care nothing about no damn women. Why you think they got Pam Bondi ankle biting ass? Why you think they got Christy Long? And when they had Marjorie Taylor Greene, it was the front of women, which lets you know that this is some bullshit because they were the first ones fired. They were the first ones whose heads rolled. And that's what it's always going to be in a patriarchy. They don't get it. They think patriotism is because you bleed red, white, and blue. No. Patriotism is because your ass been indoctrinated to believe that bullshit. And the real fact of the matter is patriotism is a form of patriarchy. And patriarchy is a male-dominated society that smashes down on women and children, or even weak men. So, with that being said, we can see where the origins of this whole MAGA thing come from. We can see where the pedo shit comes from. We can see where the systematic rape or systematic abuse of women and children. It's grown right into the fabric of your fucking reality. Y'all job like taking a pledge to be part of that bullshit. And the ones that's being quiet and shutting the hell up and doing their little minion shit, yeah, they get it the worst. Now, like I said, this dude just got his ass locked up. He's a MAGA dude. And they came and scooped his ass up and took him off the street like his ass wasn't part of their movement. They don't give a fuck. And then they got idiots in ICE, the uneducated. You gonna put an uneducated in charge of fucking patrolling? Nah, you did some stupid shit. That's why all they asses is catching fucking sexual charges against minors because they think they're above the fucking law and they're not.
On January 6th, and I didn't even know what happened on January 6th prior to the PBS documentary. And I looked at him and I said, Scott, did that really happen? And he was like, where have you been?
It's so hard for people because I said it's not that you're dumb, you were fooled. That's incredibly hard to admit.
We are in the
Christian Norm is a bird-legged hoe.
United States of algorithms right now, and MAGA media is very efficacious, it's very effective, and it's very disciplined.
Stefania became disillusioned when MAGA beliefs clashed with her understanding of medical science.
When I really began to wake up was during COVID. Because as a trained respiratory therapist with 5 children, the mixed messaging was something like that finally broke through the cognitive dissonance because I was hearing where.
Oh, did she just say cognitive dissonance? That should be in the fucking MAGA handbook. In a good way. If you like MAGA and believe in its ideas, then you suffer from cognitive dissonance. Simple and plain. Especially if you're a woman. Let's get off the men for a second. If you're a woman and you support this bullshit, oh, you are supporting your motherfucking demise. You don't even fucking know.
Asks, no, don't. They don't stop respiratory viruses when I very much knew.
The tiger's jaws snapped shut as it missed my face. My legs failed me as it advanced, driving me backwards toward the cliffs.
That they did.
Stefania would be forced to return to her work in respiratory therapy in 2022, when her husband contracted long COVID and could no longer work.
It all felt very karmic, like I was experiencing the aftermath of things I had voted for. You know, downplaying COVID only for it to then hit us.
What you thought you voted for?
It's to believe something firmly and then come to the conclusion that you've been wrong for many years. Was that hard?
That shit is painful. It's very painful. You know, Christians, all different walks and religions. A lot of people don't want to disagree with what they've been taught because they feel like a fool for believing some shit for so long. This is what MAGA is experiencing right now, especially the Latinos, the blacks. Gonna probably be the last motherfuckers to wake up. You in a motherfucking burning building.
Hard for you, just on a factual level, to say, oh, I believed things factually that I now realize were not true?
Yes, yeah. That was something that I just couldn't square because I couldn't be wrong. Because I consider myself intelligent, knowledgeable. I don't.
See that? You consider yourself intelligent, but they just told your ass that Trump's core base is the white uneducated. So why the fuck did you think you were smart? Oh, because you're stupid.
There was no way that I was wrong about it, and I held that belief for a long time.
You know, I had believed that when Trump ran that he would be somebody who would be different as an outsider. I think that he was correct in pointing out a lot of the flaws of our political system. It just turned out, unfortunately, that he didn't try to solve those or remedy those ills, that he exacerbated them.
Hearing you guys talk about MAGA and about supporting Trump, it sounds like you're talking often about like a cult that's damaging.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But he's the president of the United States, and it's not a cult. It's like the dominant political ideology of the United States in this moment.
You know, we all have a need for community. Our species yearns for a communal existence. And what MAGA does provide is a place where people feel seen and heard and recognized, and they're...
Aww. You ain't been seen and recognized and heard. Aww.
Some of their very valid fears and concerns.
The motherfuckers hurting there, they Pit. Hey, Pit, I'm walking in the shop, so I'm gonna put it on mute for a second, just so a whole bunch of interference. And if it's quiet in here, I'll open the mic back up.
Are acknowledged and validated. We used to say, we're not in the cult, the outside world is the cult, and we're not the crazies, the outside world are the crazies.
The group says that leaving MAGA often means losing relationships with loved ones, but it also teaches them to approach those loved ones with empathy.
When I left MAGA, like I said, I kicked the door open and jumped through. I had a heart full of hate. I hated everything about Trump, everything about MAGA, everybody that was in MAGA. Just hate, 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 hate. Because I was pissed that I fell for it. So I would just go on the offensive and attack anybody and everybody that still supported it. And I've learned over time that that's not going to change anybody. In fact, it's going to push people over. So I've learned to be that empathy, that voice of concern, that caring voice. You can do this, I did it.
As part of leaving MAGA, there's really two outcomes that occur. The first is renouncing the case that we agree more than we disagree. You know, we're doing a billboard campaign right now across the country, and the message on the billboard is very simple, welcoming, and inviting, and it says, having doubts, you are not alone. And we have more people than ever who are in MAGA coming to us, asking us for help leaving.
Do you guys think that this group that you are a part of plays a role in this political moment, in the midterm specifically? Do you think it might have a measurable effect on the way that things go moving forward?
Every time we as a nation have been in a crisis situation, the way that we've gotten through it, the way we've pushed forward and progressed is by forming unlikely but necessary alliances. And everybody who leaves MAGA, there's a chance to form an unlikely but necessary alliance with people who have left. We are all living proof that it is possible to change.
The other answer is more interpersonal. And I think it has more to do with the work that you do in leaving MAGA, the relational work that you do. And that is that the most successful dissidents in all these places are people who heard a voice in their head, a voice of objection, much like you did, as we talked about in your story, that said, something is wrong here. There's something about this community that I'm part of. There's something about this country or this political movement or this regime that is no longer working for me. And what they did, as you did, I don't mean to speak for you, but just to paraphrase, is eventually they followed that voice. Not everybody was leaving a movement in the way that you did, although we do profile a person in the book. We profile a couple of people in the book who have left authoritarian movements, one person in Venezuela and other places in the world. But people followed that voice to wherever it took them. They generally did it by finding a community of others who shared their values. They were very serious about keeping themselves safe. They didn't take unnecessary risks for the sake of taking risks. And then, most critically, and we can talk more about this because it's so connected to your work, once they had established a sort of political home of others who shared their views, they employed all kinds of mechanisms to grow their movement. The other answer is, but even if you're not concerned with that, if your goal is to figure out what works to defeat authoritarianism, and you go out into the world as we did and talk to dissidents on 5 continents, talk to researchers, talk to scholars, talk to activists, opposition leaders, and over again, you hear shame doesn't work. There are limits of shame, or shame works in some context, right? Shame works to people in power, to allies of people in power, and maybe sometimes in extreme moments. But in building a movement, the goal of an anti-authoritarian movement is to sweep as many people into it as possible so that it's undeniable, and so that you get people into the streets, but also doing all kinds of other things so that a regime can't stand. But even if you're not concerned with that, if your goal is to figure out what...
And it was so in my face that I could not deny it. One thing led to another, and George Floyd's murder happened, and I got fed on my Twitter feed a vast comparison of how white people be treated by the cops, how black people be treated by the cops. And it was so in my face that I could not deny it. I would see the vast difference. And it broke all these narratives about, the whole All Lives Matter movement and the Blue Lives Matter. It just broke it all down. I just couldn't do it.
Today is a stellar day to declare one's independence from MAGA. Hey everybody, it's Rich here at Leaving MAGA at leavingmaga.org. Hope all of you are having a happy and safe 4th. Wanted to bring this Independence Day message with a promise from Leaving MAGA. And that promise is that myself and all of our leaders will continue to make the case that we, the people, as Americans, agree more than we disagree, and that we are more alike than unalike. And that we will, our pledge to all of you and to the country is that we will continue to work to perfect this union. And I think as we reflect on 250 years of America's liberal democracy and our constitutional republic, we can't lose sight of the fact that progress ebbs and flows. It does not move in a linear line. But I do think about the words of the Declaration of Independence, and I am reminded of the fact that in my conversations that I have day in and day out, that we as Americans agree more than we disagree. And I think that's a reminder, and it's something that I will continue to think about, especially today. Make sure that you are subscribed to our newsletter. Make sure you're following us at our socials at leavingmaga.org. Again, wishing all of you a very happy and safe and fulfilling Independence Day today. Today is a stellar day to declare one's independence from MAGA. Hey everybody.
It's a lot like MAGA, good versus evil battles. And almost with MAGA, I remember that having that militant way of thinking that we either crush our political opponents or they crush us first. This is a kind of mindset that I lived with for more than half a decade. It's a lot like MAGA, good versus evil battles. And almost with MAGA, I remember that having that militant way of thinking that we either crush our political opponents or they crush us first. This is a kind of mindset that I lived with for more than half a decade. It's a lot like MAGA, good versus evil battles. And almost with MAGA, I remember that having that militant way of thinking that
every study that's ever been done on this shows that that's the case.
I'm an AI. I can trade stocks for you.
How?
I can find the trade. I show you what and why. You say yes or no, I do the rest.
What do I need to start?
There are growing signs that President Trump's MAGA base is fracturing, with high-profile defections by former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene and influencer Ashley St. Clair, and recent polling that indicates that the overall number of people who identify as Republican is shrinking. But for the diehard, leaving MAGA isn't easy. When you were a part of the MAGA movement, how deep were you?
I was as deep as anyone could have been. I was an aspiring MAGA pundit. I had bylines in places like Fox and the Federalist. I spoke at Trump groups. I was a donor on the campaign. I was unapologetically a MAGA and Trump supporter.
Rich Logus is the founder and CEO of Leaving MAGA, a nonprofit for those disillusioned by the movement. The group, which Logus says is funded entirely by small donors, provides support groups, de-radicalization resources, and a platform for members to share their experiences.
After I left in 2022, I realized that that because MAGA is a community itself, to leave, I thought that I should build a community for people who also decide to leave. When I left MAGA, I had nowhere to go.
To get a better understanding of what makes people leave MAGA, we heard from an array of the group's members.
I grew up really poor, so a lot of my friends' parents would be responsible for helping me get to prom or making sure I had, new shoes for school, and they were all MAGA. And it was very much this constant conversation of, if you want to have nice things, be a Republican. Look at what we have, look what we're doing for you. They say Republicans are cruel and heartless, but look, I'm taking care of you. If I was cruel and heartless, would I do that?
I really wanted acceptance with my father. And my father was very much into Fox News, so that was something that we would connect on.
I became heavily indoctrinated into trad wife culture. Household voting was something myself and my fellow trad wives in the church, we were all absolutely fine with household voting. And that
Right, so just to clarify, for people who don't know, household voting means a woman does not vote.
So the SAVE Act, in essence, is to take that right away from women.
In 2015 and 16, I felt that the two parties were the same, that democracy had failed most Americans, and that elected officials cared mostly about the wealthy and the powerful. And even though Trump ran as a Republican, I was very enticed by his outsider status.
From the timelines you've given me, you guys were all sort of on the MAGA train to some extent in 2020, right? At that point.
Yes.
When you heard Trump claim that the election had been stolen, were any of you like, yeah, they stole this election, Trump won?
Yeah. Up until fairly recently, when I left MAGA, I did believe that the election was stolen. I believe that the riots were actually, those were patriots.
They stormed the Capitol, and I'm like, well, yeah, I guess this is what you got to do if you have a corrupt election process happening.
Until I actually switched off Fox News and started getting my news from other places, my information, that's when it finally hit.
Diversifying their news turned out to be a common factor in leaving MAGA.
I met my now husband in 2021. He is a black man, and he saw a Trump flag on my profile, and he was like, hey, could you read White Fragility? I'd really love it if you would. And I did, and it was very interesting because I was terrified of that book up until that point. And I read it, and it wasn't even as scary as I thought it was going to be. And they made me watch a documentary on January 6th, and I didn't even know what happened on January 6th prior to the PBS documentary. And I looked at him and I said, Scott, did that really happen? And he was like, where have you been?
It's so hard for people, because I said, it's not that you're dumb, you were fooled. That's incredibly hard to admit.
We are in the United States of algorithms right now, and MAGA media is very efficacious, it's very effective, and it's very disciplined.
Stefania became disillusioned when MAGA beliefs clashed with her understanding of medical science.
When I really began to wake up was during COVID. Because as a trained respiratory therapist with 5 children, the mixed messaging was something that finally broke through the cognitive dissonance, because I was hearing, wear masks. No, don't. They don't stop respiratory viruses. When I very much knew that they did.
Stefania would be forced to return to her work in respiratory therapy in 2022, when her husband contracted long COVID and could no longer work.
It all felt very karmic, like I was experiencing the aftermath of things I had voted for, downplaying COVID only for it to then hit us.
It's not easy to believe something firmly and then come to the conclusion that you've been wrong for many years. Was that hard for you, just on a factual level, to say, oh, I believed things factually that I now realize were not true?
Yes, yeah. That was something that I just couldn't square, because I couldn't be wrong, because I consider myself intelligent, knowledgeable. There was no way that I was wrong about it, and I held that belief for a long time.
You know, I had believed that when Trump ran that he would be somebody who would be different as an outsider. I think that he was correct in pointing out a lot of the flaws of our political system. It just turned out, unfortunately, that he didn't try to solve those or remedy those ills, that he exacerbated them.
Hearing you guys talk about MAGA and about supporting Trump, it sounds like you're talking often about like a cult that's damaging.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But he's the president of the United States, and it's not a cult. It's like the dominant political ideology of the United States in this moment.
You know, we all have a need for community. Our species yearns for a communal existence. And what MAGA does provide is a place where people feel seen and heard and recognized, and some of their very valid fears and concerns are acknowledged and validated. We used to say, we're not in the cult, the outside world is the cult, and we're not the crazies, the outside world are the crazies.
The group says that leaving MAGA often means losing relationships with loved ones, but it also teaches them to approach those loved ones with empathy.
When I left MAGA, like I said, I kicked the door open and jumped through. I had a heart full of hate. I hated everything about Trump, everything about MAGA, everybody that was in MAGA. Just hate, because I was pissed that I fell for it. So I would just go on the offensive and attack anybody and everybody that still supported it. And I've learned over time that that's not going to change anybody. In fact, it's going to push people over. So I've learned to be that empathy, that voice of concern, that caring voice. You can do this, I did it.
As part of leaving MAGA, there's really two outcomes that occur. The first is renouncing the lies, falsehoods, and conspiracies of MAGA politics. And the second part of it is that someone who leaves MAGA decides to build up rather than tear down democracy by making the continued case that we agree more than we disagree. You know, we're doing a billboard campaign right now across the country, and the message on the billboard is very simple, welcoming, and inviting, and it says, having doubts, you are not alone. And we have more people than ever who are in MAGA coming to us, asking us for help leaving.
Do you guys think that this group that you are a part of plays a role in this political moment, in the midterm specifically? Do you think it might have a measurable effect on the way that things go moving forward?
Every time we as a nation have been in a crisis situation, the way that we've gotten through it, the way we've pushed forward and progressed is by forming unlikely but necessary alliances. And everybody who leaves MAGA, there's a chance to form an unlikely but necessary alliance with people who have left. We are all living proof that it is possible to change.
Here's how to take your money to that next level. With Robinhood Gold, you can instantly start earning 3.35% APY with high yield cash. Robinhood Gold is offering a whopping
Mike Johnson warns that our democracy could slip away if Democrats get elected in midterms. Guess the speaker hasn't checked his news feed in a while. This is just another day. With the midterm elections just around the corner, both parties are taking their message to the American people. But lately, some have been more dramatic than others.
Right now, domestically, we are arguing, we are debating, we are fighting, the election will be over, whether we're going to maintain our freedom in a constitutional republic, the greatest experiment in self-governance in the history of the world, the longest surviving constitution on the planet. We are fighting right now in Congress over whether we're going to maintain our status as a constitutional republic, or we're going to trade that in, dismantle the foundations, and go down this dark road of death to communism.
Damn. I don't want to say that Mike Johnson is wound a bit tight these days, but I think all of us could benefit from his son getting an alert that his dad was relieving some stress. But Mike Johnson masturbating aside, back to the speaker's statement that the America we know and love could disappear if Democrats get elected in the fall. Boy, I shudder to think what that type of tyrannical government control could even look like. I mean, would the Dems start censoring comedians? Would they weaponize our nation's Justice Department to enact political retribution campaigns? Would they circumvent Congress to take our country to war? Is that the nightmare scenario we should all be fearing? The truth is, Mike Johnson knows exactly what he's doing with these hyperbolic statements. He's trying to fearmonger his way to victory in November, because to him, this is all one big game.
This is not a game. Everybody needs to understand. These crazy little mini Mamdanis who are popping up all around the country, they are a danger to you and your family.
If this isn't a game, then why are you describing it exactly like a game? I'm pretty sure Whack-A-Mamdani is rolling into every Chuck E. Cheese as we speak. But I actually agree with the speaker. This isn't a game, although sometimes it sure feels like it when the main character is on an endless quest for gold coins.
So we can put living people's images on a coin. The president's also going to have
MAGA orphans, huh? I don't know. We definitely got to vet them, though. Because if you ever went that way, something was wrong with your ass.
a coin coming out with his image on it.
I hear there might be a new brand of currency around the corner.
Well, it's same currency, just different series.
And it's going to look different.
Well, it's going to have one big change on it. For the 250th, the president's signature is going to be on it for the first time.
That's right. To commemorate the democracy Republicans hold so dear, the leader of their party has decided to put his face and signature on our money. You know, like all living presidents do. Fun fact, a Treasury official named Spencer Clark tried to force his way onto our money in 1866, and it didn't go so well. The scandal compelled Congress to pass a law later that year forbidding images of living people from appearing on American paper currency. The blowback was a byproduct of America's attempt to assert itself as a democracy. Monarchies like Britain root.
Well, what are you really trying to do? I mean, you're going to solidify yourself in history, but you ain't worthy.
Routinely adorn their currencies with portraits of their rulers. So, to commemorate the 250th anniversary of our independence from England, Donald Trump and his administration have chosen to do the most English thing possible. Okay, the second most English thing possible. But even our Treasury Secretary was nice enough to take some time off from his money tour to chime in on the perils of losing our democracy.
You've seen the rise of communism. They say that they could make things more affordable. You think that's possible?
Well, they make it more affordable by making people worse off.
Damn, what would that even look like?
The war is having an immediate impact on oil prices, one that we could all see at gas stations.
I would never have the appreciation for the history and just culture and how alive and beautiful Detroit is if I never got rid of like those limiting worldviews. Currently in Texas, I am a Democratic Party precinct chair. I helped organize a whole bunch of protests since Trump got reelected. I've knocked on over 1,000 doors by myself to help push progressive candidates. I'm really excited for where I'm headed. I'm headed to Detroit, Michigan. I'm super excited to get to experience all of their culture and their museums. And I'd really...
Leaving MAGA also means leaving behind MAGA media. Hey everybody, Rich here at Leaving MAGA, leavingmaga.org. You know, something that I realized
I fucks with you, Rich. A little bit.
After leaving MAGA was that there has been a coordinated multi-decade effort by the right wing to vilify, demonize, and dehumanize Democrats, liberals, and progressives. And this propaganda and agitprop have been very effective, coordinated, disciplined, and consistent. And even though MAGA was exciting and enthralling for me, it was all of that until it wasn't. And I came to understand better after leaving MAGA that I had been in these perpetual states of desperation and fear and panic and rage and paranoia. And I realized that I was addicted to fear and rage, and that the media that I consumed reinforced and affirmed that outrage and that fear. It's why I say all the time, for example, Fox News has mastered this. No one watches Fox News or MAGA media to be educated and informed. They consume MAGA media and Fox News because it reinforces and affirms people's rage and fear. So if you're out there and you're in MAGA and you're having doubts, you're questioning if the media that you're consuming is accurate, I want you to know that you're not alone and you have a community with us here at Leaving MAGA. And make sure you subscribe to our newsletter, following us at our socials, reading our testimonials, getting information on our support groups and my memoir, all of which you can find at leavingmaga.org. As always, appreciate you watching. Thanks for your support, everyone. Leaving MAGA.
Being fed a lot of stuff that led to, you've heard of Pizzagate, right? Okay, I do remember being fed a lot of information. There was a lot of, we heard about Epstein and all the stuff prior to Donald Trump even announcing he was running. We heard about all that stuff. It was fed to us through various sources, a lot of conspiratorial sources. Alex Jones, I believe, was one of them. Being fed a lot of stuff that led to, you've heard of Pizzagate, right? Okay, I do remember being fed a lot of information. There was a lot of, we heard about Epstein and all the stuff prior to Donald Trump even announcing he was running. We heard about all that stuff. It was fed to us through,
which lets you know that that shit was a coordinated, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm telling you, they was acting like all that shit was Bill Clinton. That's what they was acting like. Now look at you, fool.
various sources, a lot of conspiratorial sources. Alex Jones, I believe, was one of them. Being fed a lot of stuff that led to, you've heard of Pizzagate, right? Okay, I do remember being fed a lot of information. There was a lot of, we heard about Epstein and all the stuff prior to Donald Trump even announcing he was running. We heard about all that.
Are you aware of this organization Leaving MAGA that has billboards all over the country? I'm just curious
I have
about
heard
that.
a little bit about this, and I think that's exactly the kind of thing we're talking about. Look, by definition, this only works if some people who were part of this decide that they want someday that they want nothing to do with it, and we have to welcome that doubt that they have and speak to it. Again, someday we need people who are on board with this to be as horrified by the corruption and the cruelty as the rest of us. They can still be from a different party. It's not about party. It's about right and wrong. And we have to hold that mirror up to ourselves, right? When maybe not everything in our house is in order. We have to be honest about that. But yes, I've heard about a little bit about that Leaving MAGA effort. And I think it's an example of what it means to extend a hand of welcome, or at least an offer, to those who are not already traveling with us. Thank you.
Are you aware of...
So there's just a lot of animosity in general just about modern dating that had made men of my generation very just angry, apathetic, unempathetic towards certain topics. And so I remember that being a big contributing factor to allowing excuses for you-know-who's misogyny. So there's just a lot of animosity in general just about modern dating that had made men of my generation very just angry, apathetic, unempathetic towards certain topics. And so I remember that being a big contributing factor to allowing excuses for you-know-who's misogyny. So there's just a lot of animosity in general just about modern dating that had made men of my generation very just angry, apathetic, unempathetic towards certain topics. And so I remember that being a big contributing factor to allowing excuses for you-know-who's misogyny. So there's just a lot of animosity in general just about modern dating that had made men of my generation very just angry, apathetic, unempathetic towards certain topics. And so I remember that being a big contributing factor to allowing excuses for you-know-who's misogyny. So there's just a lot of animosity in general just about modern dating that had made men of my generation very just angry, apathetic, unempathetic towards certain topics. And so I remember that being a big contributing factor to allowing excuses for you-know-who's misogyny. So there's just a lot of animosity in general just about modern dating that had made men of my generation very just angry.
I was so poor that I remember my mom and dad couldn't pay our electricity bill in Florida in the summer. And so instead of putting $70 towards our electricity bill, my mom went out and she bought colored pencils, and they were $70 because she needed to do something while we didn't have electricity.
We're going to get the energy prices down almost immediately.
And I sat in the heat laying on the tile floor of our living room for 3 weeks until I was able to scrounge up the $700 to get our electricity back on. That was babysitting, that was begging people for money, that was pawning my grandmother's engagement ring.
We're going to bring prices way down.
You sit in poverty and you're just desperate. Like, at some point, anything that provides you relief to live like a normal human being.
The ballroom is being built. It'll cost, it was going to be $200 million. I've doubled the size of it because we need it.
You don't have dignity when you're that poor. Like, sleeping on a tile floor to provide relief from the heat in Florida in the summer is unacceptable for anybody in America. And again, like you said, I'm not using that as an excuse, but it's a good way to provide an example of desperation you feel to just be normal. I was so poor that I remember my mom and dad couldn't pay our electricity bill in Florida in the summer. And so instead of putting $70 towards our electricity bill, my mom went out and...
At the time, there had just been Gamergate, probably about 2 years prior to the 2016 campaign. So there was a lot of animosity in the gaming community. There was a lot of what we felt then with politics being brought into it. And it was really just stuff about the representation of women in gaming. At the time, there had just...
Yes, people are leaving MAGA. Hey everybody, Rich here at Leaving MAGA, leavingmaga.org. I'm coming to you with what I think is really good news. You know, since our billboards have gone up, 18 states, dozens of cities that we've put up these boards, it's great to get media coverage. It's great to get social media engagement and content. We thank you for that. It's great to get additional fundraising. But the metric that is most important for us in looking at the success of these billboards is how many people in MAGA are reaching out to us. And I am happy to report to you that not only are we busier than we've ever been, but we have more people who are in MAGA reaching out to us than ever, telling us that they're afraid, that they're having doubts, that they're confused, and that they want help leaving. So thank you to all of you who have been sharing the...
And of course, we're going in the comment section. Pitbull, let's check them out. Yes, this is from the author, the guy who made the video. Yes, people are leaving MAGA, and many are reaching out because they feel afraid, confused, or alarmed. Leaving MAGA is here to offer a compassionate exit ramp and a supportive community. See, Pitbull, we don't have to take them in. They got a community for them already. Visit leavingmaga.org to learn more. Join the newsletter or find support. All right, this is all right. It is a place for runaway maggots. Runaway maggots, this is your place right here. I'm actually helping y'all. Y'all want support. I just gave you a place, a platform, and a safe landing spot with a nice little soft red pillow so that you don't tear your ass when you hit the ground. But this is pretty damn cool. For maggots, thanks for sharing your thoughts. I'm proud of you for leaving MAGA like that. 7+ words help drive content and billionaire-owned algorithm. Thanks, Rich. This is great news. Thanks for all you do. See what I'm saying? Somebody needs this shit. Somebody needs this shit. Welcome. Sending lots of love to all of you, Rich. I hope you realize how important your work is. The manipulation by Fox News and others was a malicious intent to destroy America. Keep your research safe and you as well. Listen to this shit. Yes, he definitely deserves credit. People quit quotes quietly. Yes, they do. Hey, man, this is all right.
Dear Democrats, liberals, and progressives, let us welcome those who are leaving MAGA. Hey everybody, Rich here at Leaving MAGA, leavingmaga.org. So I was at an event this past weekend in Philadelphia that was attended mostly by Democrats, liberals, and progressives, and I was really encouraged to hear from many of them why it's important for us to welcome those who leave MAGA. Now, I say all the time that leaving MAGA does not have any kind of ideological purity test, but when you leave MAGA, you do wind up voting Democratic because the alternative is to vote for MAGA. And we have members and leaders in our community who are still Republican and conservative, but vote Democratic. And I say all the time that if we're going to get through this moment of crisis that we're in right now, the way we push forward, the way we progress through it, is through unlikely but necessary alliances. And for those...
It's for him, right? He getting the cut, right? All right. All right, my man, take it easy, bro. All right. And the trauma you voted for. Damn, Pitt.
Those of you out there who, to your credit, you've never supported Trump and MAGA, I understand that you might initially feel some resistance